paper-based exams. It goes away to markers, and the markers will have a process of 4 to 5 weeks that get the results back to the students. So it's quicker than we got just now. It's just not, it's not going to be that instant result that, well, nearly instant result you get with the objective test. But that's fair, it's unavoidable. Again, remember, there's going to be 5 different combinations of triggers and tasks. Yeah? So we need to, as an examining body, we need to make sure that there's balance in there. We don't want to say that the people who did variant 1 had a pass rate of 80%, and the people who did variant 2 had a pass rate of 45%. Yeah? Overall, we're going to equalise that. If variant 2 proved to be more challenging than variant 1, which it shouldn't do, but just in case, we'll then do like we do just now, and make sure that the results are all moderated. All right? So that is the principle of the case study. Okay? I will go through later and demonstrate them to you, but we've got different criteria at different levels. So the operational case study is a lot of shorter tasks. If you remember the persona, so what types of things will you be doing? Nothing intricate, nothing really detailed. So it's a sequence of short tasks. So your exam, this one illustrated, is broken down into 5 sections. Last section being bigger, maybe there's a section that rounds things up towards the end. Strategic level, likely really only to be 3 sections that are in there, bigger sections. All right? I won't go through this because I'll demonstrate it live or with a real test. Is that okay? So we'll take a look at that. Is that all right? We're going to have a short break? You want a short break? Why did you come up to the front? I thought you were announcing a break. You just left something there. All right. Okay, now bear with me then. Bear with me while I go through. Right, I've gone back. So this is, I'd have come off here, clicked the operational level case study practice exam, and I can find my way through here. I opened this a while back, I'm partway through it, you can see the countdown clock. So this one I shut down, I was playing with it earlier, and I shut it down because I think it gets me back in quicker. I'll just pop open. What I've done just to try and make life move along more easily for myself is I've got saved. I've saved a lot of the data. I've got the tests all where I've just gone print screen and saved them into Word. So so I can always print them out and demonstrate them if I need to. You could do the same, or you could email it to you. Anyway, this is the story. Before the exam, this is the stuff students get 7 weeks before the exam. General background of the company. Manufacturer of animal feed in the form of dry food pellets, family-owned business based in the UK, the existing profits, sales customer history, sales were boosted when I vet stuff, what we make, blah 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 blah. 2 pages is all, right? And in an exercise last week, we were talking about employability and skills that students need for being employable, and it turned to interviews. And of course, one of the things that you need to do when you go for an interview is make sure you know a bit about the business. So in some ways, this exercise for students is what sorts of things do you need to know about a business to be able to impress an interviewer. Yeah, but it's not the case. You're supposed to be role playing where you're going in the organisation. So this is the background of the company, really just the company. There's a little bit about the market conditions and things that have affected the market over the years. There's then also a little bit. So remember, it's set up here, today's date, March 2015. So this will be real time. Then here's an old article from 4.5 years ago about blended feed success. So a little bit of background about some issues. It name checks our company MW and one of our products. Yeah, but again, it's just over 1 page of a supposedly magazine article. It gives students a little bit further background. Here's another one. Last couple of years, 30 September, here's our statement of profit or loss. Profit for the year, 626, 649. So we look at that and say, look, there's been general, a modest amount of growth in revenue, in gross profit, profit before tax, profit after tax. And we could spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes going through. Let's just have a look at the profit margins in there and see if there's anything notable. Likewise, statement of financial position, so we could calculate returns on capital employed, return of shareholder fund, whatever we think is relevant. Statement of changes in equity. So there's a brief financial background in there. Cash flows, movement, working capital, increase in receivables, payables, that doesn't look so great. So there's a little bit of a cash, net increase in cash and cash equivalents, don't know what's happened there. Yes, there's maybe something in there that the trade receivables has gone up quite significantly, trade payables hasn't. So all we're doing with this pre-C, we're not learning it off by heart, but we're just becoming aware of the issues that the company faces. Another example is something, again, this is from 2014, so this is more recent than that other article, retail paper of the year. Yeah? So it's talking about it's going from strength to strength. Again, it's a 1-page article. It doesn't take students very long to go through, and you would find what the issues were. It gives a little bit of a background about our boss actually in there, which is useful to know, because we've got to communicate with them. Yeah? Standard cost cards. Remember, a lot of what we're doing is to do with costing. Now one thing is that all this data, all these documents will be available during the exam. So if I have a task that involves how long does it take to produce something, I don't have to learn and remember that it's 9 minutes for a chicken and 12 minutes for a sheep. Yeah? I know that the information's there. Fixed overheads, fixed overhead rate, it's all there. If I need to use it, I'm not going to be asked to calculate it, but I can use it and explain it. All right? So, we'd have that. I think there may be one other document. I can't remember. No, I think that's not actually. That's the yeah. Okay. So that's all there. Try and hide them away. That doesn't matter. And when I come into the exam, sorry, I did jump this on a little bit. The clock has stopped ticking. Look. Yes. I've not reviewed the entire screen, it's telling me. Now I have, so please take me back. Yes. Now, so in the exam, I'll have gone through the entry route, said I want to start. And available to me are, well, on the first screen, this reference materials wouldn't be there at the very first thing I see. It's only because I've been into the exam and clicked forward. We'll see in a moment, well, maybe in about less than 15 minutes, what happens. But these two screens, these two things will be the tables, which I might be using. So that's all we've got for the operational level. There's no formulae that are in there. And the pre-scene. And what will be in here is those documents I've just been looking at. Right? And they're going to be on a searchable, there'll be searchable PDFs. So if I know that I want to find out what is the direct labour hour, I can type in direct labour and it will find the documents that have got stuff about direct labour in there. But there'll be and again, this just says that for the practice module, this doesn't have everything that's in there. So this is the background. You remember there was stuff about the background to the company, sales and customer history, purchase supply information, and that would go down to this stuff at the end about the employees. All right? So we can always touch back to. So again, if I want to find out how many minutes was it to produce a bag of chicken feed or whatever it was, that will be there for me to find. Right? And like the other pop-out boxes that we've had, I can scale it, I can move it, and I can then hide it. So I'm not going to be spending a lot of time in there. And if there is something that I think I'll be using, I'll have my wipey board there, or I'll have my scratch pad, as we call it up here, so I can put direct labour time 9 minutes, 12 minutes, and write them there so I don't have to keep on clicking things open if I know it's something I'm going to use. Right, so this is a trigger. This is what we're going to be sending. So there wouldn't be any reference materials. So I would have, today is the 24th of May. You've just received the following extract from the board meetings from a couple of weeks ago. Here's the minutes, research and development, costing information. Research and development, 2 animal feed products going to be added to our range, costing information, simplified absorption costing, considering ABC. Mr. Harris reported he's heard this one. Now we know that, we will know by now that Mr. Harris is not an accountant. Yeah? So when we're talking to him, people skills say, don't just launch in talking about activity-based costing, like you and I can talk about it, because we've done it in our exams. Yeah? We're going to have to be careful when we explain whatever's going on about ABC. All right? Subsequent to the board meeting, Mr. Harris informed you about wanting to explore the possibility of using ABC. You've already undertaken some work on this. You completed a schedule showing the calculated standard cost per bag for each product. It's been based on your best estimate of the data needed. You sent the schedule to Mr. Harris without any form of explanation. That's not very good people skills, but you're going to put that right. Okay, so actually it says, the schedule can be found by clicking on reference materials above. So now that one is there. I forgot the running order of this one. So here is something, this is an indication that the student does not have to do the calculation. This is something that supposedly you have done over the last few days. Activity-based costing, estimated standard cost for a bag of product, base data, 1, 2, 3, 4 products, traditional method absorption. Now I can't do anything in this box. I'm clicking away here. I can't highlight, I can't type, I can't copy, I can't paste. I can save the image. I don't know what I'll do with that. Probably can't do that in the exam because it's on a different platform to my laptop. Yeah? But here's some information that it's all down there. Total estimated production cost, the workings are done. Right? So let's see what goes on next. So that's a trigger. There's information that means that we'll have to do something. Right? Upon receipt of your costing schedule, we're sent the following email. Thank you for the costing schedule you sent me. I have to admit I know very little about it, the basis of your calculations, although I'm surprised to see how different the costs of the bag are. It would be very useful for me and also for Mr. Webb, the production manager, if you could prepare us a report which covers the following. Now, it says Mr. Webb, the production manager. It might not have said, it might have just said Mr. Webb, in which case we click through and see in the pre-seen material, Mr. Webb is the production and distribution manager. So the job's there. Alright? So you can find that, and just remind yourself in there. Operational will be more guided in the way in which it presents it, so it will do that. Management, definitely strategic, might have just have said, Mr. Webb. And you say, oh, it's a name I should recognise. Is it there? And you know where to. So you go in, pre-seen materials, research database, Mr. Webb, bang, production manager. Alright, and then this one, it'd be useful for us to have a report. So the task is not going to have the type of requirement that we've had so far on the paper base that says, calculate this, prepare a report which, discuss, explain, compare and contrast. All the verbs that we set the exams around, they won't definitely be there. This will be more conversational, more business-like, and say, oh, it would be useful if you could do a report which covers these things. But at operational level, you will have guidance on the task. So there's 4 bullet points there. I'm doing a report that's going to have 4 main headings. It might have some subheadings, for instance, advantages and disadvantages, but I'm given a little bit of a steer on where I'm going with this. Alright? So, I've had the trigger, new products coming in, costing schedule prepared. I've got the task, do a report on this, and then I have my answer screen will come up in a moment. Clock is stopped again at 8:46. I set this up earlier so that you can see the 5-minute warning. And then the student has got this blank canvas. It has very little in the way of word processing opportunities. All you can do is cut and copy and paste. You can write with bold, you can use italics, you can underline. Right? You can insert a table, you can insert a graph, you can insert a function. There's no bullet points, and so on. Now that's a deliberate step that we've taken because we want to test how competent somebody is as a management accountant, not test how competent they are as a word processor. Yeah? And if we had somebody who was really experienced in Excel and PowerPoint and Word, they could put together a report that looks fantastic and has little substance. Where somebody might have something that's very, very basic and it's got all the substance and it doesn't look as great. And that's going to influence the marker. Alright? So we're keeping it very, very simple for that reason. The other thing that people have been asking us, and you might encounter this with students, is, I'm really not good at typing. Yeah? And the one phrase I go back and say, all these lecture conferences that we've had in the past, I've sat where you are, and examiners have sat up here, and they've said, would you please get your students to improve their handwriting skills? Because we can't read what they've written, and if we can't read it, we can't give marks, right? So where I've had students saying to me, but I'm not good at typing, I've gone back and said, you're not very good at handwriting either. You're better at least when you put in a word, don't know why that's coming up, I'll probably type some. When you put in a word, it may not be the correct word, but I can read that it isn't the correct word, or I can read that, the font is all legible. Yes? So, and the other thing to look at is, okay, they might think that typing skills are essential to be able to write enough. They're not. You can be a 2-finger typist, and you can get down the information that you need to get across in the 45 minutes or 5 minutes 53 seconds remaining. Yeah? You can do that, right? Because we're not asking somebody to go on and on and on and on and on about activity-based costing. They don't have to explain everything. If you remember the task, I can pop out the task as reference material rather than clicking back. I can pop that out, I can pop out the board minutes and the costing schedule. I've always got access to these, easier than going back and forth. It says, I want some detail how it differs from this. So no, don't give me the history lessons of which organisation first invented ABC and implemented it and how many millions of dollars it has saved in the opportunity. Just give me some stuff on the differences. Give me the advantages and disadvantages. Look there, there's a 5-minute warning. I better get answering it, but I'll definitely not pass. That pops up. Remember, I've let 40 minutes lapse on this. Yeah? Advantages, disadvantages to our business. So don't give me a list that you found in a study manual of advantages and disadvantages. Say, we've now got 4 products. What are the different features of those products? Why does activity-based costing help us with those products? Yeah? That's what we're looking for, not a new book on activity-based costing. So we'd be typing. And the nice thing about this is I can cut and paste. And if I get there, I cheated a little bit by typing this. Anyway. So when I've got 5 minutes to go, I can go back to things that I have done. Right? I've just typed a whole load of information in there. With 5 minutes to go, let me read through it again and just check. You know, that doesn't look very user-friendly. So what am I going to do? Let me insert lines between my paragraphs. Something as simple as that. Yeah? That looks like a long paragraph. I don't like long paragraphs. Let me find a way to split it. Yeah? Is that good? Is there anything I can do to improve the presentation? I might underline these advantages. Yeah. Try and underline them. Underline. Underline. It's not going to underline it all. Yeah? I might think that maybe the priority of these advantages I've got is in the wrong way, so I can cut and paste and fix that. Oh, that's all underlined. Let me just tidy that. There we go. Yeah? So the great thing about this, if you've ever done an essay question, yeah, whenever you've done an essay question, you must have, I can't be the only one in the room who's done this. Who's got, you know, so I've got 45 minutes to answer this question, and I think 5-10 minutes of planning, priorities, brilliant, I'll start writing. And then 20 minutes into writing, something comes into your head that says, do you know what? ABC is fantastic for decision making because we've got to decide on volumes of production. There's a mention, there was something about one-off orders. Now, if I've written my advantages and disadvantages, and then I have this idea that this is another advantage, yeah? How often have you seen this on an exam script or done it yourself? And you get to the end of the answer and you write, another advantage is, and you write it in double size letters, and then you put a big asterisk beside it and draw an arrow that goes up and says, put this up here. That's how I'm going to prioritise, yeah? Yeah, all the times I've done that. And then you start worrying. And examiners, again, have told me how often they do that. It's one aspect of using this that you can say. You can say, oh, I completely forgot to say you know, something really important up here, right? I forgot, it's your birthday. Yeah, obviously, don't. Yeah, let's have a drink. But you can then go in and put in afterthoughts, and obviously if they're better thoughts, you put them through, and there you go. Now, you know, the student's got 45 minutes. And you know, what have we said for years and years and years and years on paper-based exams is stick to the time allocation. Because after 45, if you carry on writing into the 50th minute and 55 minutes, those 10 minutes you might earn 1 mark. If you start the next question, you'll earn 3 marks, 4 marks in your first 10 minutes. So, you know, we're kind of forcing this on the students. Not because of exam technique, but because Mr. Harris and Mr. Webb have got a meeting to discuss stuff. And they've got that meeting in 9, 8, 7 seconds time. Well, yes. So they want the report now. Somebody's going to come in the door. 2, 1, 3 is now. Kaboom. That's got to 0. Yes. Hello, Mr. Harris, I've got your report for you. Or I've just pressed send. Yeah? I can't do anything more with that. I'll never see that answer ever again. Right? I can't, even on the practice test, I can't say it. That's gone. And there's only one thing a student can do. There's no options. If I click previous, it goes, haha, too late. Click next, which is what? Click OK. And then it moves you on in time. And this is what the case study does. It moves you on in time and says, right, there's something else has happened. So task number 2, this exam is made up of structure. 4 sections. I've just finished section 1, taking 45 minutes. Section 2 is going to ask for another 45, and 3 is another 45. Now, that looks very lazy and so on. That's just the way it's been written. Another one might have 5 tasks. It might be 45 minutes, 20 minutes, just a very, very short one. 60 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever the other minutes remaining are. Yeah? You'll always be able to refer to this, although you have very little flexibility around it because the clock keeps ticking. Right? But you see what's happened with this one? It said, we've moved on in time. We've taken the feedback that you said on activity-based costing. I can't remember what the other task was that was in there. I can't even look back and see what the other task was, but I've just spent 45 minutes on it, so I should know what it was. All right, it's mainly activity-based costing. Now, there's another email, Mr. Harris again. As you know, we signed the contract with the local customer last month. Horse and goat are now in the marketplace. The word seems to have got about the nutritional quality of the new products. I've been approached by a major national feed distributor to sell these products to them. So here's a big opportunity. Factory for sale next door. Expansion, recruitment, new staff. But please could you advise me, if this is the case, also whether any other recruitment opportunity. Right, so this is, again, another trigger. We've just learned that there's a new opportunity. And regardless of whatever we said in task number 1, we might have said in task number 1, look, activity-based costing says that horse feed is really unprofitable and we shouldn't touch it unless we sort out production facilities or something like that. It's going to say, oh, it's going to ignore you. Yeah? Or it will say, thank you for your feedback, we've taken your feedback and everyone else's feedback, and this is where we are now. Yeah? It's a month later, let's move on. Alright? So this is a new trigger, 1500, 500, I don't know where we're going with this. So here's some information. I'll click next, and I've got another task waiting. It's coming. Just wind it up a bit. There we go. That's how we fixed the internet. Alright. Oh, the task must have been in there. Because it says, write your response to the email. So I didn't really clearly see the task, and I can click on that and read that again. So I did highlight it before, and I said, so this one isn't as clear with the bullet points and everything as the previous one. So please could you advise me, I'm interested to know how, in particular, new property will affect our financial statements. And it's its effect on the profit of MW in the future. Okay, so there's stuff to write there. Now, if I go on and say, yeah, invest, it will be really good. And the accounts will be fine, don't worry about them. Leave them to the accountants. There you go, there's a good answer. Right? What do you think? Right? Now, the story will be, if I think that's a good answer, right, let's pretend I've actually spent 30 minutes putting together what I think is a good answer. Right? So after 30 minutes, that time remaining will be saying 15. So I think, done. Next. Yeah, but to leave this section of the exam, I will not be able to return once I have left. And I think, if I do press yes, and I go, I don't create additional time anywhere else in the exam. This exam, I had 40 minutes remaining there. And what that means, instead of having 3 hours in the exam, I'm now going to have 2 hours and 20 minutes. Task number 2 stays at 45 minutes. Task number 3 stays at 45 minutes. Task number 4 stays at 45 minutes. Okay? So that's a toughie for the students to get their heads round. But you've got to say, well, at work, if somebody asks you to do a task and say, look, I need this one by 3 o'clock this afternoon, and you get it to me by 2, you work through your lunch and you get it to me by 2 o'clock. Then next week I ask you to do something and say, I need it by 3 o'clock again. And you say, but last week I gave it you an hour early. I would say, that doesn't affect today's requirement. I need that at 3 o'clock today. I can't be generous and say, say to all my visitors, let's say I've got all sorts of people coming in, chief executives and clients and so on. I can't go to them and say, look, we're going to start an hour late because my financial officer worked through lunch last week to do a task for the tax authorities or something. It's just not feasible. All right, so the student is strongly advised not to click yes in that box. And if they think they finished, to reread and go through and use the bold and the underline and make sure it's the best presented. So, and go through and say, have you actually demonstrated technical skills? Did you explain activity-based cost in the way, did you explain activity-based cost accurately? That's technical skills. Did you explain it in a way in which Mr. Webb would understand it, remembering that he is not an accountant? So have you used the phrase absorption, just as, like that, and expect them to understand it? He's a production director of food. For him, absorption is when you have the rice and the water absorbs into the rice when you cook it. So if you just say absorption per labour hour, he's going to have absorption per grain of rice. So you've got to explain that in a way that makes sense to somebody who operates within a business but hasn't got financial training. So you can go back and say, spend those remaining 15 minutes, if that happens, saying, double check that. So that's the business, that's the people skills that I was just talking about there, the correct level of communication. And what about the business skills? Again, does my list of advantages and disadvantages, shame I can't put it back up because I didn't make it relevant. Does my list of advantages and disadvantages look like a textbook? Or does it say MW would benefit because its animal feed comes from different complexities of production? Yeah? Is there an illustration? And I should have put one in. I did have one in there an illustration that says it doesn't matter how long something takes per unit, but the machine setups, the machine setups are one lot if you have one batch of 60,000 bags, and it'll be 60 lots if you have 60 batches of 1,000 bags. Can you use the information given in the pre-scene, the trigger, which makes that answer sensible? So you finished in 30 minutes, 15 minutes to review should make sure that you have a rounded answer with technical, business and people skills. And this is what case study teaching will become. It's not going to be, let's spend a whole load of time learning about activity-based costing, because you did that when you passed P1. It's apply the knowledge. Now, my teaching background is management, accounting and financial management. I did 20 odd years of management, accounting and financial management. I've never taught anything in the E-Pillar. I qualified so long ago that most of the E-Pillar, in fact I think probably all of it, was not in my syllabus when I took my exams. Yeah? I would have no fear in teaching E1, E2 within a case study. I couldn't teach it to a student to pass E1 and E2, but I have no fear in teaching for an operational and a management case study exam. Because if you come to me with something that is in E1 or F1, right, again, I'm equally lame on F1. If you come to me with something on that and say, well, shouldn't we talk in this question? Shouldn't we talk about IAS 36? Yeah? And I'd go back and say, well, just pretend that I'm Mr. Harris, or I'm Mr. Webb. Right. Tell me what you want to tell me about IAS 36. Remember, I have no, and this is how, I've done this in class, did it with the strategic case study. Just say, just pretend I have no knowledge of IAS 36. Right? Say that to your students. Right? The fact is, I have no knowledge. But I'm not going to tell my students that. So let's forget that I know everything about IAS. I'm now Mr. Webb. I'm going to know nothing. Tell me what you need to tell me about IAS 36 in the context of this task. Right? So, can you do that? Can you write something that says, this decision will have an impact on financial statement, whatever it is. And if I'm still looking blank at the end, then you shouldn't be putting that into your answer. Yeah? Or else, now I'm saying, oh yeah. So I still don't understand IAS 36, I still don't understand activity-based costing, but I understand that it delivers benefits because it helps me make decisions. And my finance officer is going to give me information about making those decisions. So I've got faith that that's good information. And that's really the skill of case study teaching. It doesn't, we've had this asked loads and loads. Do you have to have somebody who is expert in E1, P1 and F1? No, you don't. In preparing for a case study course, you'd be sensible to get your E1, P1 and F1 people together and just say, in this pre-seen material, what issues do you see? Looking at set financial statements, the E1 expert is going to say, that's all numbers. Don't know anything about that. The F1 will be going, oh, well, see what you can see in here. And you do this as tutors among yourselves. What about this? The F1 tutor is going to say, hang on, there's no numbers in there. How can that be accounting? And then the E1 tutor is going to say, well, there's stuff about problems and risks, there's environmental issues that are mentioned, and we'll raise the issues in there. Yeah? E1 person will talk about this, the growth in the business. Look, the E1 person doesn't seem to have much to say, but most of the test is on P1. It will come out. Yeah? So there's a lot, the tutors can work collaboratively during the pre-scene phase to say there are some issues and we think students will talk about this. Yeah, and they need to be aware of those issues. But the tasks that they need to develop, the skills and the tools they need to develop, are skills on writing effectively, persuasive writing, business English, using business communication, things like that. Getting to the point, summarizing nicely, prioritization. Yeah? And make sure that you're focusing on the competencies at least as much as the learning outcomes, because these case studies are written around competencies. Yes, people will draw on learning outcomes and say, look, let's test something that's to do with financial reporting and taxation or management of working capital. Now, if we do that, we know that people have done that in F1. Yeah? And if they do that, then there might be something that links to E1, and we can look to integrate discussion on working capital management with E1 issues. Right? That's how they're written, with the aim of testing the competencies. So we've got to learn how to deliver those competencies, how to look at an answer and say, the competencies are displayed here, here, and here. That's technical, that's business, that's people skills being demonstrated. Yeah? They say, if it had said, and I'll go back to my flippant note that if it had said somewhere in here that it's Mr. what's his name's, Mr. Harris's birthday, he said, I've got to leave the office by 3, and I've got to leave the office in 45 minutes because it's my birthday and my wife's taking me out for dinner. I don't think there's any harm in writing, I hope you enjoy your birthday celebration. This is somebody that you work with day after day. Yeah? There's no harm in there. Don't start drawing a birthday cake and things like that. But that would be good people skills for a colleague. Yeah, you're given some information, you can't ignore it. I wouldn't imagine that that's going to happen. It might. It might. I might have a word with some of the case study writers and say, put stuff about birthdays in there, see what people do. Okay, so that's what the case study looks like. Again, the one thing with the practice test, unlike the objective test, is that there is no opportunity to have your answer marked. As I say, that one that I created for task number 1 has gone. Nobody will ever see that again. I don't even think the people in Pearson VUE, whose platform this is, I don't think they're saving any of the effort that we put in. So it's one just to, for people just to see what's available, what sort of tasks are being set. By all means, to spend some time in here typing. Yeah. One thing that they shouldn't be doing is putting in smileys. Yeah. I think that's kind of not good business skills to be doing that sort of stuff. I just did that because it looked like I'd done one before. Hang on. Here's two. Here's two. Hang on. So I just get this. This is me wasting time. Right.
You had to mention the good-looking part. I don't know what you're trying to do there.
Just done 2 drawings.
This is you getting back at me.
That's you with your hair. And that's you now. I'll send that to Pearson VUE. Sorry, that's just gone off on a tangent. Now, are there any questions? Apart from? Is this on the camera? Is this going to show up on the camera?
Ah, thanks.
Both smiling, come on, always smiling. Just a haircut, that's all. Are there any questions that we got on? Now, as we were saying, there's still bits and pieces here being developed. Not an enormous amount. We know how the case studies work. We know how the objective test will work. We've written all the questions that have gone into the objective test bank. They're going through a big quality assurance test. The questions that are actually in the practice test hadn't gone through as much in the way of quality assurance. If you do go through them, you'll probably find one or two errors, like typo errors and things like that. But they're being reviewed, and by the end of October, there'll be really good ones for students to practice with. The case studies, there is going to be a follow-up practice case study for each of these pre-scenes. So I'm just going through to the end. For each of the pre-scenes, there is going to be a second variant. So you can see how for this company, the animal feed company, what might happen in a different case study. So what might a different student get? So the first task, I've not seen it yet, but we had the first task being about activity-based costing. You might get something that's about short-term decision making. Yeah? And then where we went on to do something that involved making the investment, the impact on financial statements, it might be something to do with E1, who knows? So those are being written. So shortly there will be additional practice tests available for the case studies, and there will also be, well, I say version 2 of the objective test, where some of the initial teething difficulties will be ironed out and corrected. All right? But the purpose of having the practice tests up there, in amongst all these words, right, the feel is that it's something for tutors to be familiar with, how the platform works. And it's really only with me playing with 5, 6 practice exams that I'm very confident about the approach I would tell students to take. Quick run through, quick answer questions, second run through, attempt answers to questions, use the flag if you want to review it, third run through, the longer questions, the calculations, yeah, and then how to use the review screen. I'm quite confident about that as a bit of exam technique, yeah, because I've become familiar with this. I know the complexity and the difference of the questions that are in there, and we've got our official publishers, Kaplan, have been working on producing both study texts, which I think are out this week, study texts, and practice banks of objective testing. Yeah? You'd notice that the study texts are not going to be remarkably different to the current edition, because where a learning outcome started, it's the same learning outcome. It might have moved from P2 to P1. It might have gone from P1 to F1, but the learning outcome is the same. There's only 10–15% of the total syllabus that has been removed and replaced. So the learning outcome will still say, let's see how this trial balance creates a full set of financial statements. Let's see how these variances all add together to reconcile budget to actual, because those tasks have to go through. Yeah? But the practice bank of questions will be objective test, the full range in there. Obviously it's going to be on paper, so the idea of dragging and dropping is not quite the same, but it will be simulated on paper. Yeah? We set them up, we got them out in July before people had the results from May, just because we were afraid that students were going to say, objective test, multiple choice, very easy. So I won't do an exam in November, I'll wait until 2015. And we didn't want them to do that without full information, because we're management accountants, we don't want people to make decisions without the full relevant information available to them. All right? What isn't in there? So, you saw when I went through that F1, I scored 92%. When I went through it last time, I scored 22%. Right? The 92%, it's just practice. I've just become really good at F1. So I've done it so often. You know, and even then, you know, no student should look at that and say, right, I got 92, so I'm going to pass. Yeah, that's one sample of questions.